Sigmund Freud lived to see World War I. It's something that Hegel had talked about, which was, there is this army wearing red, there is this army wearing blue, and you're standing at the top of the mountain looking at these two groups of people fighting one another. They have no idea why they're fighting. All that they know is the reds have to kill the blues, or the blues have to kill the reds. But at the very core, they're both human beings. And they're both been deceived or duped into fighting for a ridiculous cause. Freud was, his father at least was a Jew, and he saw firsthand what happens to you if people find out that you are a Jew, especially if you live in a Christian-dominated environment. As a young kid, you see your father being pushed around because he's a Jew. As a young kid, you see your father's business go bankrupt because he's simply a Jew. And imagine being a kid, loving your dad, and seeing him being pushed around by other people, but there isn't much you can do, you're just a kid. You're angry, you're sad, you feel oppressed by all sorts of limitations that you have as a kid. That's all you do, you just swallow your anger and your sadness. He lived to see part of World War II. When Nazis gained power, his sisters died, 2 were gassed and 1 was starved to death. He also was an introvert in the sense that for some strange reason, he just liked troubled people. And he wanted to know why they're so troubled. What's wrong with people? So he would go into mental institutes from a very, very young age 14 and on, all the way to the time he died, just to study people. So for those of you who may want to dismiss Freud as some coke addict, I think you should reconsider. He was really one of the prophets of the 20th century. Sometimes we look at our kids and we ask, what's going to become of them? How are they going to survive this world? They can't buy a house, education sucks, America is a land for the depressed and the lonely. People here eat alone, sleep alone, and most likely die alone. This is the software, and no doubt my kids and other people in this classroom who have children will fall victim to these forces. There is no escape. How are they going to cope with this? How do people cope with life? What exists in life? There are 3 things that you should know. First, I look myself in the mirror and I say to myself, who the hell am I? What the hell am I? Every 10 minutes my mood changes. Every 20 minutes my desire change. Every 30 minutes my goals in life change. Every 10 minutes I look at my wife, I say, I love you. 5 minutes pass by, I say, I hate you. 20 minutes pass by, I say, I'm absolutely indifferent. There is no stability to me. I'm a puzzle to myself. And I realize I can't even depend on myself. And if I was to be like Socrates, the unexamined life is not worth living. The truth is, when I examine my life, I realize it truly is not worth living. There is nothing in my life that's worth me continuing to survive the way I do, or I have for the past 60 years. So that's the first thing you need to understand. And no one asked you, but you're here. Now that you're here, there is no book you can find, there is no book you can buy to figure out how you ought to live your life. And if you have any awareness to you, you know that most of life is filled with a good amount of regret and disappointment. How the hell do you cope with that? Some of you are 20 and you've been in 4 relationships already. Some of you are 18 and you watch your parents divorce. Some of you are immigrants, not knowing why the hell you're here in this country. How do you cope with this shit? Go back to Machiavelli. The only way you and I can survive is first, try our best not to see these things. You have to deceive yourself. It helps you to survive. There's nothing wrong with that. So remember, the number 1 enemy is you. You are your own enemy, and somehow you have to survive it. You do the craziest things, and you gotta survive them. And we do things that we create guilt inside ourselves that'll take us months, if not years, to recover. And then unfortunately, you and I have no choice but to live in society. Look around you. This is it. We've spent about 12 weeks in this class, I think. Any of you in this class have gotten to know the people in this class? Do you know their names? Have you exchanged phone numbers just in case, like want to have coffee with them? The fact is, in society, you are invisible. And you will do all sorts of crazy things to make yourself visible. And you don't even make yourself visible to good people, because no one really is good. Goodness is only a thin facade. You know those plastic saran wraps that you put over like dishes, put them in the fridge, but you put your finger, it easily just pokes a hole and that's it? That's who and what we are. A very thin layer of deceptive narratives that we sell to other people. And once they get to know us, they come to realize that we are indeed hollow from within. You don't come to this class because you like it. You don't write the essays because you like it. You don't go to work because work happens to be an extension of your creative parts. No. You need a job to make rent, to make food, to make gas, to survive. If you live in society, you have to let go of the many freedoms that you had as a kid. It's what we call being socialized. Society tames us. I know you write great essays, MLA format. I know you want to write and write and write, but there's a word count, no more than 250 words. And even though you want things to say, you're held hostage by the limitations of language. Society is not a place where you can exercise your freedom. It's an oppressive container. How do you cope with that? Let me first thank some of you who are staring at me, giving me the illusion that you're actually listening and paying attention, when in fact you're just daydreaming about breakfast or lunch or dinner. That's an indication of oppression, that you have to lie to survive. Just this class for an hour and a half. So remember, all of us in this class, we are our own enemies, first and foremost, and then the pressures of society, the things you gotta do that you don't wanna do, but you gotta do to make a living. And finally, you just get old. Your back, your knees, this vehicle that used to take you to places to allow your dreams to come true. You know, you see a candy and you say, okay, let me just go to 7-Eleven and get it. But imagine if you have arthritis, all you have is imagination, but it will never come true. You will want a candy, but you can't walk yourself there. How do you survive old age when you realize that you're beginning to lose most of your abilities, that you have more time behind you than ahead of you? So these are three very, very important things that Freud talks about, that they all create some emotional distress, intellectual confusion and anxiety, that you keep changing your identity, you don't even know why, but you just don't feel right in your own skin, that you have to live amongst people you don't like, and you're forced to do that. And as time passes, and it happens so subtly, one day you wake up and you realize you have wrinkles and you have no hair and your beard is all gray. And then you sit back and you say, really? Where did time go? Why did it go so fast? I haven't done anything. How do we cope with this? Now, let me put some words in Freud's mouth, though he didn't say this stuff, but let me just say it for him. If you live in China, you respect and honor your elders. If you see a 20-year-old with gray hair, it's a symbol of wisdom. You don't dismiss them. Just in case you want to get married, you don't trust your own 20-year-old intellect. You go to your grandfather, you go to your grandmother. They are wise, they're experienced. They will tell you whether or not this person is the right fit for you. You have no right to explore and experiment with life because life is dangerous. Given the fact that, everybody was making fun of Joe Biden because of the shape he's in, but the truth is he's just an 80-year-old man. That's what happens to you when you get older. You don't make fun of old people. You respect the fact that they survived 80 years and it's tough 80 years. But not this culture. Everybody just refuses to believe that they're going to get old and one day they will die. So given that there are no elders in this culture, how do we cope with the difficulties of life? Well, how do I forget the things I feel and the things I see? I can only sleep so much. Maybe I can drink a little, but not just a little. Maybe I can drink a lot. Because once I begin to drink too much, then my mind will become paralyzed. I will no longer think, I will no longer reflect. The me that has been held hostage by age, by the pressures of life, I can maybe dance in the rain naked, broad daylight. Maybe I can pick a fight with someone, maybe I can shout and scream. Drinking becomes my messiah. And I don't drink because I'm a monk living in a monastery, coming to realize fasting and praying and repenting has done nothing for me. Therefore, I take alcohol to open some spiritual portal that lives inside me but blocked. Just a regular chap, not knowing what to do with life, or myself or other people. So I drink to forget. Some of us in this class may not have the proper taste buds, or maybe allergic to alcohol. There's a store that just opened up in Montclair village. They sell weed. It's a very nice store, very clean. Every time we go to get some coffee or frozen yogurt with the kids, it's right there for all to see. And sometimes I sit back watching the people who go in, And if I happen to be in a relatively playful mood, I ask them, I'm sorry, are you going in because you have cancer? Are you going in because you have migraine? Is there like a disease that you have? He says, no. Well, why are you going in there? "Oh, you have never done this? No, it's so much fun. If alcohol doesn't work for you, you can do drugs just to forget. Or maybe just to get some clarity and then forget. Because you can't survive clarity, it's impossible. It's too much. I'm not a Native American. I'm not asked by my elder to walk into a tent. I'm not given peyote by an elder, where first I have to do some rituals, perform some ceremonies, and then smoke, to have a vision, and then have my entire life transformed. If I was a young Native American in that ceremony, after smoking now, I am responsible for my community. I don't do to forget. I don't smoke to forget. I smoke to remember and then be burdened by the things I remember. So for those of you who sometimes smoke in this class, consider the wisdom of Freud for a moment. Loneliness, boredom, the pressures of life, carrying all this is a bit too much. If you don't drink, you certainly will smoke them away. Maybe just drugs and alcohol, they're not your forte. Maybe that's not what you want to do. Maybe you'll be like me, or maybe you'll be like Eminem. Maybe you'll walk into the world of art. Maybe you'll create music to express your sorrow and sadness and the burdens of life. Maybe you have a journal. Maybe you'll go to school and study history. Or as many of my students do, maybe you want to study psychology. You have no passion for psychology. You have passion to figure out what the hell is wrong with you, or your mom, or your dad, or your brother. Every semester when I ask my students the first day what they're studying, and someone says philosophy, another says history, another says like psychology, I wonder what lives inside them. So what you really want in this culture is to study computer science, because it makes you money. The hell are you going to do with psychology? You want to help other people? Really? If the world of art, education, or drugs don't work for you, there is one branch left that allows us to cope with life relatively healthy. And let me also just add, despite all the awful things Freud would say about human beings, about life, about art, he had thousands of books on art. And his own life, which is dealing with cancer near the end of it, is a testimony that there is only so much pain you can endure in life before you ultimately resort to drugs and alcohol. Sometimes I'm home and for some strange reason I fall victim to these really dark moods. I just play the piano, not because I'm an artist, but because there is no book that can speak to me. And there is no person out there whom I can call and have a conversation with. And there are specific keys on the piano I play over and over and over again. And for some strange reason, my mood and those few keys have such intimate moments. And when my wife comes to me and says, oh, that was beautiful, but she doesn't understand, I'm not playing piano. I'm trying to express the pain that lives inside. That's the only way I can express it. So this last branch, last Messiah that helps us with coping with life is religion. Consider the book of Job, for those of you who know this book from the Old Testament. Why can't you just accept that life is random? There's some awful people out there who come and just kill your kids. Why do you have to ask justice by the gods? Life has no justice. But that's not what Job does. Job can't accept the fact that people can be crude and cruel and vicious, because he believes everything that happens down here happens because God wills it. That puts him at ease. When he gets sick, he doesn't blame his body, he doesn't blame his diet, he blames God. If you want to know which group of people have made the most profound philosophy of life to cope with this miserable thing called life, go no further than the Jewish people. Go all the way back to the Old Testament and forward to 2024. This particular group has been kicked out of every land they've ever gone into. How do they cope with it? They're just not liked. They're not welcomed. And every time they occupy a certain place, they're kicked out. How do they work this out? We are the chosen people. All the stuff is happening to us for a reason. And you know why God puts us in this tremendous amount of suffering? Because of his excessive love for us Hebrews. The Christians don't suffer like that. Neither do the Muslims or the Buddhists. By the way, I'm not suggesting that doing drugs or alcohol in a controlled way or walking the world of art or becoming religious are bad things. The only thing that Freud is suggesting is these are the only tools we really have to cope with life. And if you can be in those worlds and use those worlds in a right way, it's good for you.